Hi guys, so welcome to the channel. My name is Vlad. I am a DJ and one-man band music producer, and in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you how to mix tech house vocals like a pro. So let's listen to the track and start with the tutorial. Alright, so let me break down my mixing chain for the vocals, and the first thing I usually do to my vocals, I use a utility and make them in mono. Even though the vocals can be recorded in mono, I just want to make sure that they don't take the stereo space, so I have enough space for my other instruments. The next step is a compressor, and this one is tricky because sometimes you can use shorter attack time, sometimes you can use a longer attack time. It's gonna depend on the vibe of your track, because sometimes you want to add attack to your vocal and sometimes you want to squash the vocal so it sits in the mix. So let me show you a difference between a long and a short attack time. So for example, let's use a longer attack time and a short attack time. That was short attack time. So one more time, longer attack time. I think in this case, using longer attack time actually sounds better. So just check if it fits your track and if it works for your track. It's just all about practice and how it sounds in the mix. And the release time I usually set in auto, so I don't have to worry about release time, but you can just choose it manually, doesn't really matter. I'm using a filter, basically a side chain, so I'm just applying compression to everything above 200 Hertz. And I'm also using parallel compression, so as you can see, my ratio is set to 10:1 and the dry wet is mixed 50-50, 1:1, and basically that lets you to make your vocals more powerful because you are mixing the very compressed signal to the dry signal. The next step is using smooth operator. If you watched my recent videos, you know that I like this kind of plugins, and it just makes your mixing so much easier. Basically, it just reduces the unwanted, unpleasant frequencies. And without. The difference is really subtle, but it makes sense in the context of the mix. And the last step that I usually do to the vocals is an EQ. And in this case, let me quickly tweak it a little. And in this case, as you can see, guys, it's really simple, just cutting somewhere here. It's 400, so if I bypass the EQ and with an EQ, it just makes the vocal more clean. And usually the muddiness of the vocal is around like 300 to 400 is where you want to cut the mud. But be very careful here. But be careful here, guys, because if you cut too much, your vocal will sound weak and unnatural. This is not what you want. And usually you can also cut around 1K somewhere here. So this area, usually it's where all of that unpleasant mud sits. And I've also boosted a little bit of 4K to add presence to the vocal, and I've used a high shelf filter to make my vocal sit and mix. So basically this is it. This is what you really need to do to your vocals. And let me show you the low layer. Basically it's the same vocal with the same processing, but it adds power to the original one. And together with the original one. As you can hear, it adds that nice sub layer. You can use it sometimes because it doesn't work for all of the vocals, but sometimes you can do that. So what you do, you just pitch the main vocal, you just duplicate the layer and you just pitch it down 1 octave and you will have that sub layer. I usually use Complex Pro. And let's now talk about group processing. The group processing is pretty interesting. So the first thing is the saturation. I've talked about saturation in many of my videos, and I usually split my signal, the group or on individual channel, into 3 bands. They sometimes can be different, but in this case I have from 0 to 400. I want to change it a little. Let's choose 300, and here let's choose 3K. So from 0 to 300 and from 300 to 3K we have our bands, and here it's all about playing around. So if I bypass it, and now with the saturation. The difference is not that big actually, but what saturation does to your sound, it adds harmonics, so you can hear your sound better on smaller systems, for example the bass, and it squashes the sound a little because it works in a similar way as a compressor. So sometimes I use saturation as compressor. So let me show you real quick. So if I solo this band, and if I move the dynamics to the right, make it quieter, it glues the sound together. So when you distort the sound, you're basically just limiting it, but not as a compressor, in a more soft way. So yeah, use saturation for your vocals and just for everything, guys. It's the thing that will take your mixes to the next level if you use it in the right way. The next thing I'm using for my vocal group channel is a Pultec equalizer. It's an emulation of analog equalizer, and what it does, it adds frequency. So when you boost and add, let's say like 300, and maybe you want to add some like top, in this case I'm adding 5K, it adds some harmonics as well. So this is why this equalizer is so popular. It has very nice and soft sound, and as well as adding the frequencies, it also adds harmonics. So let me show you. If I bypass the Pultec EQ, and let's now use the equalizer. I think you guys can hear that sound became more warm and more pleasant to our ears. So this one is really cool tip if you want to add warmth and make your vocals sound thicker and more powerful. The next thing I'm using on my group channel is a compressor, and it just basically glues my sounds together. In this case I'm using RMS, so not peak but RMS. On group I prefer using RMS instead of peaks. The attack time is pretty long because you want to catch the peaks, you don't want to squash the sound too much. Because if I choose, let's say, shorter attack time, I mean, it sounds nice, but you may destroy the vocal if you compress it too much and with a short attack time. So for the groups, I would recommend using medium to long attack time so you catch the peaks. And the release time is in auto. Yeah, basically this is it. And here after the compressor, I'm using an equalizer just to clean up my vocals once again. As you can see, guys, I'm not really cutting a lot. So if I bypass the equalizer, and now with the equalizer. Maybe we can cut here. Yeah, something like that works. So I'm usually using an equalizer after everything, the compression, the saturation, just to clean up everything, because we've added some harmonics, we compressed the sound, we added some frequencies with an analog equalizer, and just to make sure everything is fine, that it sits in the mix, use equalizer after all of your processing. And one more cool thing that I like using on the vocals, and this is one of my favorite plugins, it's called Vaalala Supermassive, and if I bypass it, and now with this plugin, it's a really cool delay that can add a nice psychoacoustic dimensions to your mix. You can use it on individual channels, on the groups, or on the send channels. And the last thing is using a reverb. I don't want to talk like really in detail in this tutorial. This tutorial is more about vocal mixing, but I'm gonna show you the basics. And if you don't know how to mix with reverb, make sure to watch my video. I'm going to put it somewhere here, and by the end of this video, so you can check it out and start mixing with reverb like a pro. But basically, what you want to do, you want to have a big hole. So in this example, let's use the vocal, or this one instead. So this is a long hole. The second one is like a plate or medium hole. And the last one is for drums or a small room. You can use different rooms, but the main concept is that you split your mix in different dimensions. So let's say something that is really far away, the big hole, something that is in the middle, that could be a medium hole and a plate, and something that is really near, the smallest room. And by doing that, you will create like scenes in your mix. So think of that like a scene, something that is really far away, something that is in the middle, and something that is near, really close to us. And when you learn that concept, it's going to be really easy for you to start mixing with the reverb. So yeah, once again, if you want to know how to mix with reverb, make sure to watch my reverb tutorial. I've broken down everything, how I've set up the reverb in this particular project, and how to work with these types of reverb. So yeah, guys, that was all for today. I hope that you've learned something. Hope that you've liked the video. And if you did, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think of the track. Maybe you just want to say hello. Maybe you have some ideas. I'd be glad to talk to you guys. It's always nice to talk to new people. And yeah, thank you very much for watching this video, guys. And I see you guys in the next one.